Hey, this is Andrew Marshall, and thanks for watching. Uh, in this interview with my good friend and Accelerated Evolution teammate, Juliette Karaman Van Schaardenburg, she shares some incredible wisdom. And when I invited her on to be interviewed, I knew that it was going to be great. I knew she would have great things to share based on her life experience, but I was actually in awe of the wisdom and the insights that she ended up sharing. So I really hope you take the time to watch this full interview. Three of the really important topics that she touches on from the wisdom of her own life experiences are: one, how to regain your vitality after being totally energetically drained in life and giving too much to others; two, how to have as healthy of a process as you can in healing mind, body, and spirit after being raped, and also how to have a healthy process with grief when loved ones pass. And so I really loved what she had to share. I thought the wisdom she had to share just would be so helpful to anyone going through any three of these things. And there are so many people all the time that are going through this loss of vitality, feeling totally energetically drained, giving themselves to too much outside themselves. So many young women attacked sexually. And of course, we all have to, at one time or another, deal with loved ones passing on. So, three really important topics. And if what she shares really speaks to you, if who she is really speaks to you, you can learn more about the work that she does at feelfullyu.com. Again, this is Juliette Karaman Van Schaardenburg, and you can learn more about her at feelfullyu.com. I hope you take the time to really take this interview in, take this wisdom in, and enjoy. So, Juliette, thanks so much for taking the time to sit with me and do this interview. Everyone, this is Juliette Karaman Van Schaardenburg. Did I say your full name correctly?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. So we don't have people watching live now, but I'm going to be, the purpose of these interviews is to put them up on my YouTube channel to start sharing inspirational content and to be sharing the inspirational things that awesome people like you are doing in the world.
Great. It's
Yeah.
an amazing, amazing goal. Sounds good.
Yeah. So I'm stoked that we get to do this, and you're my first one.
Oh, wow. I get to
Yeah.
kick it off. Sounds good.
I have several more scheduled for this month, but you're the first one. You're going to be the first one going up. So, yeah, I'm stoked to get to just share this time with you. And I want to keep it flowing and organic and relaxed and fun. And so,
Perfect.
how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's 5 o'clock over here. I've done some recording for my course that I'm launching. So it's been good. Done some great coaching. So I'm happy.
That's awesome. What's your course?
My course is called the Love Your Midlife Method. So it's really for women who are kind of stuck in midlife. Midlife is a bit of an interesting moment because, up to the age of 30, you're constantly getting some, you're doing and you have a family and you're reaching something. And then comes a period where actually, you start achieving all your goals and everything goes pretty well. And then at one point, your body changes. Women, especially men, also have their midlife crises. But everything kind of changes, and you kind of start looking at your own beliefs, and you start, the kids leave home, they go to university, or they have their jobs, and all of a sudden, the role that you had kind of changes. So a lot of women kind of get stuck in that. We have menopause, we have our bodies that change, we have our energy that changes. So this is what I'm doing. I'm helping them with that. And it's an online course that with weekly coaching, group coaching. So
That's amazing because I've actually never heard of something specifically geared towards that, and yet you hear that as such like a main thing people talk about, the midlife crisis, right? So to
Right?
say, or that midlife evolution, that big, what's the next phase of life kind of thing. Is it mostly women that you work with in that, or is it both women and
It's,
men?
I mean, for this one that I'm going to do, this group coaching, it's going to be for women only. I've had a lot of men actually ask me for a men's course, so I might at one point do
Yeah,
a parallel one, because I mean, we're looking inside of ourselves to change, right? Because that's one of the things that we at first people do. It's like, oh, I want to change everything outside, so I'm going to get a new house and a new car and a new this and new that, and more beauty treatments, and I'll feel better. And they feel empty and empty
right.
and empty. And like with the typical, stereotypical midlife crisis for men, they go out and buy a new Porsche or whatever sports car, and or have a mistress, or all these things to look outside of themselves instead of looking inside of themselves. So that is where the change happens. So at one point, I do one-on-one coaching with men, and I take couples, but the online course is going to be only for women at the moment.
So what's it called again?
The Love Your Midlife method.
Love your midlife. What's the one thing, if there was a woman in her midlife right now and sort of struggling through that, what's the one main thing you would share with her to support her through it, and maybe even give that encouragement to check out your program?
I would really say it doesn't need to be like this. You don't need to give all of yourself and constantly overgive and be there for everyone else. This is also the time that you can really look inside yourself and where you can find, are you willing? That is my question. Are you willing to take this any longer? Are you willing to make a change? And are you willing to really start loving your life? And it's not for the people that actually don't want change. I'm not going to do the work for you, but I'm going to
Yeah.
teach you a few ways of actually really enjoying life. And then, I talk about my bundles of joy. I make little bundles of flowers and anything that, I'm very sensual. I like touching things. I use all my senses. So that's one of the things I teach. Where can you start noticing all the good things in your life and bring more of those into your life, so that really all of a sudden your life, which was maybe being in pain or just not exactly the way you wanted it, and then all of a sudden, where can you see that you bring in such goodness by focusing on the good things in your life?
So
So,
cool. Love it. That sounds like an
right?
amazing program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I wish I was in my 50s and then I could take it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So, Julia, this is really fun too, that we just get to hang out and jam on this and hear more about what you're doing too, because we're on the accelerated evolution team, right? And every time I see you, we're just like super focused on that, right? So this is cool to really hear about what else you're working on, what else is going on just for in your coaching work.
Mm.
So, and you're someone that we met at the accelerated evolution training, I don't know, a couple of years ago or whenever it was. And you're someone that instantly, as soon as I connected with you, I always really enjoyed hanging out with you, enjoyed connecting with you. I always feel more alive when I'm around you. It's like you bring this energy. It's very uplifting. It's very alive. It's that's something I really appreciate about you.
Thank you.
And so tell us a little more about your story. If you could give like a 5 minutes of what you would be open to share of your story,
Yeah.
sort of pivotal things in your life and where you are now.
I can. On Friday, I was asked to write a chapter for a book called She Made It Happen. And on Friday, that actually came out, and it's number one last Friday. So it's been a week now, but it's a number one bestseller in the UK and in the States.
That's awesome.
So
I'm gonna ask you about
I had to
that.
condense my story into 5,000 words, which was, not easy.
Yeah.
So for me, really, I'm Dutch. I I guess, I mean, if I'm really honest, I've had quite a few intense experiences in my life. And I guess it started as soon with um, in my childhood already. I remember waking up and all of a sudden our garage was on fire. We lived in this big house in Holland with a barn, which we use as a garage. And all of a sudden I woke up and that was on fire. And, long story short, yeah, there were just, my brother got into trouble because he went through a troublesome childhood, and it affected me in a way that I learned to always be in the background and to please other people, because I knew that by giving them something, I would get a hug or I would get some kind of recognition, right? So I think I spent most of my childhood actually being quite introvert, or quite in the back, but knowing, always preempting what other people needed. So I kind of spent my life, doing things for people and knowing that I would get some hugs and some approval. So fast forward to when I was 12 and we moved to Texas for 2 years. So that was fun. That was fun.
Wow.
That was weird. Yeah. From Holland going to Texas where everything was so big and so huge, and not knowing English so well either. So it was just a real mishmash of learnings. And I think we were the only foreigners in town. It was a small town. So, and then coming back to Holland again, and when you've been taken completely out of what's normal and into this foreign country, and then coming back, reintegrating in Holland, where I had my friends saying, "Oh my God, you speak with an accent now. What is this? Do you feel too big for the world?" And I was like, "No, it's just change. I'm trying to get over it." So,
Interesting time at 12 years old too.
right? I mean, puberty,
Really
the whole thing.
time. Yeah.
Completely.
Wow.
Puberty, first boyfriend. Well, yeah, real first boyfriend over there. So it was really cute, and it's something that I really look back at. I think that's why I've loved traveling, loved living in different countries. Why I married an Arab. Why I didn't marry a Dutch guy, because I just kind of I've been all over the place. So that kind of continued. Then my mother tried to commit suicide when I was 15. So I don't remember exactly how. I remember going into her room and taking the bottle of sleeping pills from her, calling the hospital, and getting her in a car and driving her to the hospital. In Holland, you have to be 18 to drive. So, but I kind of somehow did it. The only thing I remember is that coming back home, because I kept her overnight, and just feeling so desperately lonely. And she had her reasons to do what she did. I just remember like, wow, I have no one else but myself to really look after me. I had my dog at that moment. So dog came, how dogs feel your emotions.
Yeah.
I must say that it wasn't talked about much. My family, my parents, my dad was away. They split up for a while. So my mother had her issues. So it just kind of meant that I had to grow up really quickly. My brother had his issues, kind of left home early. My sister was at university. I was the only one living at home. So fast forward few years, I went to Spain, I went to Argentina to live. I moved all over the place. And this is what I said, moving from one country, then you kind of just get intrigued by living in other places. So that's what I did. I met my husband, who Palestinian Lebanese, got married, moved to Paris. Within 3 years, we had 4 children. So that was quite traumatic for the body, I must say, and for the mind, because it just felt like we were still kids. In the meantime, his brother passed away as well. So that was really, really intense to deal with. So we had like on and off. And I think for me, I was so in that mother role of giving and giving and giving and caregiver that I really didn't really see what I needed until at one point he and I disagreed about the upbringing of my son, of our eldest. And we got into a fight, and he just said, oh, maybe we should just get divorced. And it wasn't really meant, but that somehow it landed in me, and I was like, that's what we need to do. So we did. We got divorced. Now in hindsight, you always think like, if I had only known now what if I only knew then what I knew now. We remained really good friends. We shared the children, 1 week with him, 1 week with me. And I think that's one of the things that our lawyers also said. It's like, because we agreed everything between us. We said, listen, we love each other dearly. We're great friends. And we somehow can't make this work. So we stayed super connected with that. I, of course, went into another relationship and hadn't quite understood that I needed to look out for myself. So went into a relationship with 3 other children, so 7 children between the 2 of us, 7 different schools, 7 different holidays. And at one point, my body stopped. I spent 9 months in and out of hospital. I fainted every day. I couldn't walk more than a few meters without fainting. So I went from super vibrant, doing lots of stuff, to all of a sudden fainting. And that's really where my personal development started. Because the doctors couldn't find out what it was. I had a heart monitor implanted under my skin, MRIs. And it was only until that relationship broke up that I started going inside. I had changed outside, I changed husbands, changed houses, changed all of that, changed the way I looked, changed the way I related to people, I thought, but actually I hadn't changed me on the inside.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's really where it started. And then the more and more I looked inside, and then did coaching certifications. I remember going to this one workshop where the pivotal point was, there's a question saying, step over the line if you've been sexually molested, or if you've been lied to, or if you've been hurt, or if you've hurt another, and all these questions. And I just looked around, and so many people stepped over the line. So that's the real Me Too movement before it got hijacked by sexual assault. But that was the whole Me Too, the empathy, the what Brene Brown talks about, right? And it was like, oh my God, I'm not alone. There are all these people too. So what happened is I went deep into the psychology of it. I remembered some stuff as well. I mean, the psyche is incredible, right? Where it kind of protects you if you're not ready. So I'd gotten date raped by 5 guys when I was 18 in Spain, when I was living in Spain. And I remember going to this party with my friend and with the guy that I was with. And this happened, and the same happened to her. And I remember climbing out of a window and escaping and getting out of there, completely bruised and battered. And we looked at each other. We walked home probably an hour and a half to Salamanca, where we lived at that point. And we never spoke about it. We never spoke about it with each other. We never reported it to the police, because part of us really thought that we were bad instinctively. We must have done something to deserve this, to bring this on. Wow. So the more I started looking into myself, the more these things started rising. It's like you can't, if you want emotions to come up, you can't numb the pain either. So the pain came up, all these things started coming up, and I really started working with how you can change your mindset. So that was the start of me, the start of my coaching career, and where I help people. Then and at one point I was a director of a conscious sexuality organization in London. We brought their first coaching program to London, the first in-house intensive, which was absolutely beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. But then my sister got ill. She she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and basically died 7 or 8 months later. So the last 3 months of her life I spent with her and with her family. She's got twins as well. And I'm really helping her. And then through that, I remembered, every time it was like the next step. So through coaching, through, remembering my my rape, I started remembering that I had a near-death experience when I was almost 2 years old. My brother fished me out of the moat. I talked about it with my sister. Then somehow sacred plant medicine came on my way. That opened up the way of what it's like to have a near-death experience again, which I then talked to my sister about. And then the day that she died, she said, "Can I go to the light?" Because I described it, for me, it was going through a tunnel, going up to the light. And I must say that really impacted me and my sister, because we had so many plans together. We were going to do things together. And I was actually, of course, heartbroken by it, but there were also a lot of other emotions that you usually don't talk about. That I was angry that, that all the plans we had, were no longer there. I was sad for her kids. Then my parents got really ill, or I think actually by having your daughter die, they turned inwards, and within a year my father passed away, and then 6 months later my mom committed euthanasia. So the last 3 years have been really being there for them while they pass over.
This was just in the last 3 years that your parents passed?
And my sister, yeah.
And your sister, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a lot lately.
Yeah. Well, you hold a lot of strength. That's what I see in you. I'm amazed and honored to be connecting with you more and hearing more of your story and hearing more what's going on for you, because you still hold so much strength as you go through all that.
Thank you.
What do you feel like is the main thing, or a couple of the main things that's helped you grieve in as healthy of a way as you can? Or is even that the right terminology for it? How do you talk about that? How would you share insight with someone else of how to grieve the loss of your sister, the loss of your parents, all of that in such a short amount of time?
It's interesting, right? I mean, grief is something that's talked about, but it's, but you also get such advice from people. You're like, oh, time will pass and everything will be fine. And it's like, actually, I think you can do a whole, book. I mean, there's obviously lots of books on it, but there's so much, there's not enough out there to actually let people grieve. And what I learned is that I just now wear my emotions on my sleeve. So I met my partner probably a month or 3 weeks after I lost my sister. So he's been through with me through all of this. And what I've learned is actually to express that pain and the grief and the emotions and the laughter, and to be joyous in one moment and then, snot flying and tears and everything. And for my friends and for my family, it's been really interesting to watch it. I think it hasn't always been comfortable for them, but at the same time, I've been really expressive about it and I haven't held it in. And I must say, I think grief has been my biggest teacher up to now. It's where, so often we numb ourselves. We numb ourselves by eating, by drinking, by shopping, by whatever, whatever we do in a way not to feel. As I started peeling away my layers, more and more I felt. So that meant the grief as well. And actually there can be some real beauty in remembering things and actually going through them. And I like what the accelerated evolution with some of those processes that we do, it's like to really feel it, to experience it, to have the images, the thoughts, the body sensations, and all the emotions that come with them. And then to realize that you don't have to be stuck there, that it's a moment. An emotion often is only lasts about 90 seconds, and then you're through it. But what most people do is we push it away in the hope that it will go away, or that by time it will be fine, and not go through it.
Yeah. I've been talking to people about not specifically grief, but that thing exactly is the way to free yourself from something you're struggling with is not get away from it, it's going through it.
Yeah.
And I've been talking to a number of my clients about that. And it sounds like that's what you're saying about the grieving process is you need to let yourself have the grieving process. You need to honor the full spectrum of that grieving process and really let yourself feel it all.
Absolutely.
And of course, be supported in that. Who is your support, right? Your family, your friends. So
yeah, I think really what helped was being part of this, master coaches and the trainers and accelerated evolution. I have a few other groups. It's really having your tribe around you. Obviously, I have my 4 kids, my ex-husband, my partner. We all, we're all very close, and they helped me through it. But for them, it was also weird seeing their mother and their partner go through this. And it's like, how do I support someone like that? And it's to have really honest conversations about it, and to just say, hey, I need you to do this and this for me. Or I used to pre-frame things, especially when I was in it. People would say, how are you? I'm like, actually, I'm good, but I'll laugh at one point, but I might just, turn out crying in 1 second. And it's not that anything's wrong with me. It's this process that I'm going through, and I just want you to know. But at first I needed to kind of like pre-frame it to people that I didn't know, because they'll see me like laughing, and then all of a sudden,
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And there's 2 other pieces I want to go back to in what you shared in your story too, because that's, I think, grief, and then what you talked about what was happening to you energetically, where it sounded like you were just so drained that you were fainting every day. You couldn't do much at all. You're in and out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And then also with that experience of being sexually assaulted in that date rape, these are sort of 3 pivotal things that happen for a lot of people in life, and they're just so challenging to navigate. So you kind of spoke on that grief, how to experience how some information someone can take in, right? We don't want to keep advising people on grief, but that's some information you can take in on how to have a relationship to your grief.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's amazing what you shared of you came to that place within yourself being so depleted and doctors not having the answers for you. And you said going inward was what helped you transform. And obviously now you're an incredibly vibrant person, even with all the things that you manage, your business that you're working on, everything that's going on in the world. You remain a vibrant, focused, emotionally open person. Whereas before, when you were younger, you came to this place of being totally depleted, right? So what are the key things that helped you change and transform to out of that depletion and more back into vitality?
Great. It is. That's exactly what it was. For me, it was really, I think the last, 10 years has been a real journey in learning to love myself. And, we talk about self-love and self-acceptance and self-forgiveness, but it's a real journey. People always say, oh yeah, just love yourself. You just love yourself however you are. And we have all these imprints from society that, you should be a certain way, you should do this and this and that. So there's a lot that's expected of us, or we think that's expected of us. So for me, what was really, really pivotal is asking for when I needed help. I've never been good at asking for help. And over the years, I've learned to actually ask for help. And it might be as little as sitting down and asking someone for a glass of water. We women also have a weird way of communicating. We don't always ask exactly for what we want, but we say, oh, I'm thirsty. And actually what that means, translating for a man is like, will you get me a glass of water? But, also for you to read our mind, and it's like, and I want it in that exact glass that I want, with 2 cubes of ice and maybe a sprig of mint, but we don't ask for that. So for me, that was pivotal, really asking exactly what I wanted. And to focus into the minutia, like I was saying, like I like my glasses thin rimmed, and my water is room temperature. So I'm really precise now. And at first you think, oh, that's really finicky and that's so high maintenance. And we've all been told that, women shouldn't be high maintenance. It's not good. But actually, once you start knowing what you want and what you like in life, it's so much easier to then communicate that to your partner, to your loved ones, to your children, to everyone. And then all of a sudden, life just brings you what you want. If you constantly focus on what you don't want, or it's like, oh yeah, no, everything is fine, then you just get something fine. But if you actually really communicate what you want perfectly, then that's what you get. So that was definitely, voicing my desires. And the other one is no. When do I know that it's a no? When am I doing things that are actually I don't want to do, but I'm doing it because of habit. I'm doing it because I want to please someone else. But where in my body, how do I feel a no in my body? What does it feel like? And for me, that's tightness in my chest. And I have like this tube that just tightens up like that. So for years, people would say, can I, do you want to do this? And I'll be like, yes, but I can't say yes because actually it's a no. And it's becoming mindful of it. It's like, oh, yeah. Okay, I've just said yes, and I don't want to do this. So really knowing where your yes and where your no are. Those are. I mean, one of the starting points that I use with clients is yes and no, and boundaries. Really knowing like, oh, why am I allowing certain things that I actually don't like? And so that those were the tipping points that really started changing my life.
Right. And that's awesome. And it's not some complicated like medical diagnosis, right? That probably doctors are trying to come up with. Why is this fatigue happening? Why is this fainting happening? What's the medical diagnosis?
It's much more that where am I doing things that that actually don't serve me, that my body, that my mind, that everything, just my whole being doesn't want to do it, and yet I'm doing it because I'm so used to doing it. So it was a bit of a change also for my kids, I must say.
Sure. Yeah. One of the simple but very profound.
Yeah.
What would you share for maybe for another young woman that went through a similar experience that you went through? If you were to look back and speak to your 18-year-old self now, or another woman going through something similar now, what support or advice would you give to her for how to respond afterwards?
It's a great question. It's actually, I've discussed this with my twins, my twin daughters who are 19 now. And when this whole rape thing surfaced, they were, early teens, and I talked about it. I said, hey, don't ever get pushed into a situation where you feel unsafe. Because part of my mind was saying, hey, this doesn't feel good. And, either with drink, or I think I had like 2 drinks or whatever, Spain, you can drink, it's 18, you can drink early in Europe. So you just don't listen to that. So you really do have an innate sense of safety. And then so it did happen, I didn't listen to that. And then really what would have been the right thing is for my friend and I to talk about it. But there was such shame. There was such feeling also just feeling really dirty. That I just wanted to shut it out of my way. And also we were in Spain. My Spanish was okay, but it's not like you go to a group there. This was years ago as well. These days, thank God, there are so many groups that you can go to. My real advice to what my daughters to any young woman or any woman going through this, or a man even, is go and talk about it. Don't hide it. Don't put it away and because it just festers. That shame festers when you don't talk about it. If you talk about it with someone, you can get some empathy. You can actually get it off your chest, and it's much easier to move through again, like what I said earlier.
Yeah. I've known so many women in my life that have gone through, either grown up in family situations where that was happening, or similar situations, people they knew that happened to them, like the experience you shared. And there's so many, and it's such the common thing that of women internalizing what happened and then just not, like taking on the shit that the man puts on them, all that sense of dirtiness or sense of wrongness or sense of whatever. I mean, my theory is that a lot of that is energetically projected from the man onto the woman within that experience.
Absolutely.
Because part of why he's doing that, he's carrying that sort of what we call that like toxic energy.
Yeah.
And then women just staying quiet about it, not saying, these men just out walking on the streets. And sometimes I'll get caught up, I'll have an emotional charge, and I have for a long time, of like, fuck these men, why are they walking the streets? They should be in prison, but then learning the deeper dynamics of what's going on, learning, for me as a man, gaining more empathy for what's actually going on for a woman and the complexity of that experience, right? Which is why
it starts so early, right? I mean, I remember my uncle touching me inappropriately when I was probably 8, and that lasted until I was 15. And then at one point I just snapped at him, like, what the fuck? I was in the kitchen with him, and he helping, and he rubbed against me, and I'm just like, no, I just don't want this anymore. And I remember storming out to the living room where his wife and my mother were sitting. And I'm just like, he's just such a fucking old dirty man, just get him to stop. And the wife just like completely shaken, and my mom just like, so I stormed out, walked home, and I remember talking about it with my mom probably a few months later, because I didn't do anything about it. And she said, oh yeah, I was molested by an uncle too. That's just what happens. So that is what you then bring into the rest of your life. It's just what happens. So, but and what we then do is we just take it on. And instead of actually expressing and talking to someone or doing some processes to get rid of all that charge that we carry, but we then carry that shame, and it's like, oh, okay, well, this is my role. I should be accepting this.
How can a man or men in general do their part to be supportive presences so that women feel safer and more able to talk about these things if they happened, and to seek out support? How can we as men be more supportive presences for women who this has happened to?
I think by feeling safe. I mean, one of the things that drew me to you is that you really feel safe and super grounded. So, I can feel that you've done a lot of work to clear your, emotional upsets or whatever, might have been holding you back. But you can feel that in the man. You can feel it in a woman. You can feel it in the man. But you can really feel this like, oh, my nervous system can relax with you. Because that's it, the nervous system catches on to all of this. It's like taking a deep exhale, and it's like, oh, I can settle here, I can feel held. And sometimes it is just by the man or the other person regulating the woman's nervous system. And it's by being there, it's by being attentive, by not sexually projecting on her, but really allowing her to kind of blossom and to land. Because so often where we're in relationship or we're meeting someone and we feel that something's off, but we're like trying to pull it out of them. With women, what you actually want to do is you want to just sit there and really allow her to blossom, and she'll open up.
Right. So instead of like as a man, like if it was my daughter or my sister or a close friend of mine, instead of saying, what, you let that happen to you? We need to tell the police now. He needs to be in prison. And then her nervous, she's like, oh my God, I can't even handle your response right now. Now I'm not being helpful, is what you're
You
saying.
need to do your work first.
Right. And then I need to, what would be most helpful to her, what I hear you saying is my initial response could be more of regulating that energy, regulating the nervous system, bringing the energy down, offering her empathy and support, asking her what she needs.
Exactly. So now, let's do this and this and that, but really just reflecting back and saying, what can you need and how can I support you here? And really, and know that often she'll be like, I don't know. It's like, okay, so let's just take a breath together. And you just often just being there. And they might want to hold you and cry, or punch your shoulders, whatever. But it's not getting up in that hype. It's like, fucking hey, what happened? And we need to do something. But really just acknowledging, like, man, this is shit that happened to you, and let it all out. I can handle it. If you want to vent, if you want to cry, if you want to do anything, I'm here. I'm holding you. I'm here to hold space. Just know that you're safe with me.
Thank you so much for doing the work, just to have your own work, to have the grounded presence, to even be talking about this and sharing this in the way that you are. And I think this is really, really valuable for men and for women, just hearing what you're sharing about how to approach this, right? Because it's so, like you said, kind of your mom's response was that it's normalized.
Yeah.
It's still so normalized. And so I would love to see us as humanity coming together to really offer a more supportive presence to keep clearing this and just support the people who this is happening to. So it happens to women and men, right? But there's a particular type of experience that's much more commonly happens to women by men. So that's something I've always felt passionate about, like, okay, learning how do I actually be a supportive presence for that. So thanks for sharing what you just shared.
Right. You just keep doing what you're doing because you're grounded. You have people feel safe and seen. So definitely.
Cool. So let me see, I have my little list of questions here. We just went on.
I do want to actually, do you mind if I expand on one thing a little bit?
Yes, please.
So even me, I mean, I've done a hell of a lot of work on it, right? And I'm quite sensually and sexually open, and and I know what to ask for, and we have good connection, my partner and I. But sometimes you still get that hit. It's like, you feel unsafe, and that's where, even with someone that's completely okay with it, she'll have a flashback, or she'll have a moment where, you kind of like, oh my God, you feel that again. And it's like, how can you as a man then really hold that presence, that strong presence, and not to start feeling insecure that it's about you or this or that, but really it's like, oh, what's going on for you there? Really like feeling, it's like, oh, how can I support you there? And not have it feel like, like sometimes I'll have Alex touch me in a certain way, or when he used to come up behind me, I remembered my uncle, how he used to come up behind me, and there was still some fear left in my body. And it's only until I did a process on that actually it's left. And I hadn't even remembered. And it's only when he kept doing that, I would tighten up. And it's not that much, but I could just feel a bit tight. So it's like, be aware of that. People have so many triggers, so many reactions and activation points that instead of getting activated yourself, thinking that it's something you've done, you say, hey, what happened there? What came up for you?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So it's something you can have a significant amount of healing and release around something, but it's still something to be ongoingly conscious of and having a relationship with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How that manifests in someone's life, in a woman's life. And that's really helpful too, because I know if I speak from the man's mind, a common thing that men can do when they're sort of like not being as conscious as we could be is like, what do you mean? Why are you bringing that up now? We just talked about it a couple days ago. I thought that was all good. I thought we cleared that. And now you're bringing it up now. And now me having this response is making the situation 10 times worse for the woman emotionally, right?
Yeah,
So,
or like when you're making out, like all of a sudden it's like, oh, but that doesn't work. But usually it always works, that works for you. It's like, today it doesn't.
So it's like, men, remember, that's not how it works. It's not just like, we did that, now it's done, and now we're moving on. It's like, no, let's like continue to be present. Let's continue to offer the combination of strength and empathy ongoingly, not just for like a 1 hour conversation and then turn it off.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. And I know that where we women, or both of us, can also say, hey, do you have the bandwidth for it? And sometimes we don't. But it's just to remember, it's like, oh, where did I actually not give all that empathy, and was I not a strong presence? And don't beat yourself up when it does happen, because we're human. But it's just you start recognizing the little bits. It's like, oh, what I needed there. And for the woman, it's like, this is what I need now. I need you to not fix me, because that's what men do. You guys try to fix us, which is lovely and beautiful, but often we don't want fixing. We just want someone to hear us.
Yeah. I know. I've never dealt with that problem, but I've heard from other men. Yeah. So we have I'd love to take just about 10 more minutes here to connect with you. And I'd love to hear about, how has the Erotic Blueprint training, what has that done for your life? Because now you're an Erotic Blueprint coach as well, correct?
I am. I mean, it's funny. So my whole personal development has been in conscious sexuality. It was orgasmic meditation before, Tantra, BDSM. I've done like the whole array, because somehow that moved stuff in me. Erotic Blueprint. So it basically, what we believe is that we're all wired for pleasure, but in a different way. So the same way that we have the love languages and attachment theories and all these kind of things, the Erotic Blueprint is that we all have a blueprint that brings us pleasure. And that's the way into our system for pleasure. It means that we all have these things inside of us, but sometimes people need a bit more energetic touch, or energetic even speaking to someone. Some people are wired very differently and immediately like very sexual touch and suggestions and talking. I mean, often you'll look at someone, or you'll talk with someone, and the way they speak is like, it's very harsh. It's like, oh, that that doesn't jive with me. The same way into pleasure. And by exploring this, you kind of come to a realization. It's like, oh, we're not all the same. Like, we know that, right? But we've all been kind of, I wouldn't say brainwashed, but we've been kind of indoctrinated that, sex should be a certain way, and that, this is the norm for it. And there is no norm for anything. And this is the beauty, where you start taking a couple that has been living together for 20 years, 30 years, um, haven't been having any sex together, haven't really been having any intimate conversations either. And then you discover that they're completely different blueprints. And that the one way that where someone likes like soft caresses is that the other person is just like, that's so boring. And for 20 years, they've been having really boring sex, or not, because it's like, well, if that's the only sex that's on the table, let's just not have any.
Yeah. And they
So
don't
it's a
even
whole
know how to
exploration.
start the conversation. They don't even know how to start the conversation. There's not even the. So what I've seen about Erotic Blueprint, the little bit that I know about it, the framework is it offers that great structure and understanding.
Absolutely.
So what could you just share quickly those 5 different blueprints, and
Yes.
sort of just like the main characteristic of each one?
Absolutely. So there's energetic. So energetic are people that they feel vibrations. So they can have body orgasms without actually being touched. They feel energy also, like there's always a shadow side. So there's a positive side, there's a shadow side. The shadow side is that they come into a room full of people and they're like, yeah, too close. Often they'll like really hovering touch, and they can feel the energy there. Their whole body can start convulsing. But if you approach them too quickly, like in a hug, they're like, whoa. So they shut down. They sometimes can actually even leave their bodies, just kind of like completely disassociate from what it is to be here. So that's one. Then we have sensual. So sensual loves all their senses. So they smell, they taste, they breathe, they touch fabrics. That's like, this is a very sensual fabric. They'll wear clothes like this, like things that feel good on them. Comfortable cashmeres, lounge trousers, but things that feel good. They'll have, you'll see them eating a fig and they're just like, they can have body orgasms just by eating or touching or smelling or tasting. But at the same time, they also, when it's time to actually, maybe have sex or go to the bedroom, they'll be like, yeah, shit, there's socks on the floor, I haven't shaved my legs, oh my God, am I smelly, this, that, what am I feeding the dog, oh my God, is the gas on? So, so they completely go into their head. And it's really difficult to let go of all those things. It's like meditating and then, 5,000 thoughts come in. So for them, it's really difficult to approach that, to actually have the way in. So it's long sensual massages, making sure that the room is beautifully lit, has nice candles. Make sure you pick up the socks and whatever's on the floor so that their senses are really stimulated, and that not a lot of things can go wrong there. I mean, temperature is important. All these, right music, all these things are really important to them. Then you have sexual. So sexual is really how we have learned about sex. They like talking about cock, pussy, intercourse, climax is really important. Orgasm, to get to the peak, get there. That's really important. They often get bored if there's too much kissing and too much, other things. They'll be with their partner who wants, say, more sensual or energetic sex, but they'll get bored if they know that they're not going to have climax and orgasm in the end. So that is, so they're very goal orientated. So that's their shadow side. Then you have kinky, and with kinky, what we mean is anything which is taboo. So anything which is normally not something that you do. I mean, obviously we could go into BDSM, but for some people, it's already being naked in front of your partner might be taboo, or, having sex with the lights on. Anything like this, leaving the bathroom door open when you're peeing. I mean, all these kind of things can be taboo. So what the kinky does, there's psychological, and then there's impact. So psychological is also talking to them, saying, I want you to put your eyes down. Keep your eyes down. Did I tell you that you could live that with me? So things like that, and they're like, oh, okay, that's quite exciting. So that excites them. Impact obviously could be ropes or smacking a little bit. It could be scratching a certain way. All these things are what ignites them, what gives them, what's their way into full pleasure. So really interesting to play with kinky. Like I said, the psychological, the impact could also just be the way certain things feel on your body, like the weight of a heavy chain or something, the metal. I mean, so what's really interesting with all of these, we also do different touches. Then we have a shapeshifter. So we believe that everyone was born a shapeshifter. So a shapeshifter is you're a bit of everything. You're a bit of everything, and actually, well, we all are a bit of everything. We have everything in us, but the shapeshifter kind of likes everything. So you're great at energetics. You really like your body starts moving when someone comes near. When I put like a rattle on someone will be like this. You like the sensual, the touching yourself differently, the smells. You don't mind. You like the sex, like, come on, let's have sex. And you're ready for that. And you like the kinky. So you like all of those. So what's happened is, but the shadow side is that they can have the shadow sides of all of them. So like the getting into their head, butt socks, the only wanting sex in a certain way with the kinky, the only wanting climax, orgasm with sexual. So it really, what we try to do is we acknowledge the shadow side, and then we move away from the shadow side and kind of like peel away those layers and see how we can move more into the accepting everything and really enjoying all the sides of this. So it's great fun. I mean, it's what I love is a session where you actually have someone on a massage table, and then you can try all different kinds of touch, because often we'll think we're like, oh, I'm a shapeshifter, or oh, I'm this. But actually, by seeing the body and seeing how you react, it doesn't lie. We might want to think intellectually we're this, but then actually when you see how your body responds, it's like, whoa, okay, I didn't know I could do that.
That's so cool. I love it. It's such a valuable framework for people. So
no, I'm just saying it's just a really fun way that you can start if you're in this like deadlock with your partner. You're like, oh, I don't know.
Right.
By doing this course, or by finding out about your erotic blueprint, it's like all of a sudden so many things start making sense. Why you don't communicate, why you're not having sex, why you don't like certain things. It's like, oh, it's not because of me, it's not because of the other person, it's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah. And people can go online and take that free test, right, to see what you're.
They can, yeah.
It's one fun way to go online. Take your.
It's great. It's on it's Erotic Blueprint, and yeah, you just look for your test.
Yeah, that's so cool. I want to just take a couple more minutes and also share with me, how has accelerated evolution really impacted your life? Like maybe the main one or two ways. One, receiving the benefits of the accelerated evolution methods and methodology, and then also what it's done for you as someone who's now become a facilitator and an assistant trainer within that.
I mean, I've done a lot of different modalities, and I keep finding ones that are quicker and that just release charge quicker. So I thought EFT was really quick, and then I came across Sachin and accelerated evolution. I'm like, so the speed of where you can move from being completely stuck and not seeing what's right in front of you, and just like, life is terrible, or with me, with my I came to Sachin just as my father had died, and I was still grieving that a lot. And as I was going through the euthanasia of my mother. So by doing these processes, I just got so much relief, and knowing that, I was holding so much, but I was actually able to feel my true self, my essence, my just me, and what it feels like to be me, and not to have all these imprints on. So that's been invaluable, definitely. It's really helped me a lot the last year, and I don't think I would have actually grieved in the way that I did if I didn't have all these processes to kind of like keep me sane. I mean, at one point, driving up to my mother every day, when I was in Belgium, from the hotel to her, I would run certain processes in the car on myself, so I could get to her, and I'd be like, okay, what can I hold now? What can I do today? Go to a psychologist, go to a doctor. The day of her death, I ran her through some processes so that she actually had complete peace with her choice. And so that when the doctor came and gave her the injection, that she could actually just take it and be in her essence, be in her perfection.
Wow.
So I mean, for me, it's been instrumental, and that's why I want to help facilitate this and bring this back. For me, it's given me so much. It's given so much to my family and those around me while they were passing over. That it's like, if I can bring this forward and if I can help others with it, of course I have to.
So cool. Well, thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing for other people in the world, all the amazing work that you've done for yourself, and setting that example, living by that example for others. And this has just been an incredibly rich hour of sharing. So I'm super honored and grateful that you took the time to do this with me. I'm super grateful that you're my friend and teammate and colleague, and so honored for that, and this time just to get to know you even better.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, obviously we could jam all day.
I know,
but,
right?
So
Brilliant.
Cool. Well,
thank you for this. That was great.
Yep. Thank you so much, Juliette, and I'll see you next week.
Cool. See you then.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye.